And this is called the love and knowledge continuum. Pretty self explanatory. When I encounter a moment of ignorance, I ask myself two questions: how much love is present in this moment? How much knowledge is present in this moment? And by love, I'm referring to empathy. Knowledge, I'm referring to that both lived and learned knowledge. And so, based on those two things, I adapt my response. So, I construct a continuum of love and a continuum of knowledge to help me think about the different ways that people might show up, right? So, here along the left hand side, we have the continuum of love or empathy. And we start at the bottom with little empathy and we increase to the top, lots of love, lots of empathy. And across the bottom, we have that continuum of knowledge. And again, I'm referring to both lived and learned knowledge, right? The knowledge that we gather moving through life and the knowledge that we acquire through books and webinars um, and conversations of learning with others. And so, based on these two continua, we construct that space into four quadrants. And we tend to find that people will show up in one of four ways. So, first, in the bottom left corner, we have those people with little love and little knowledge. And they tend to show up during those moments as ignorant. We can probably list several examples, right? A hot mic moment, a tweet, an interview. And we think in response to that moment, boy, that person is pretty ignorant, right? Then we have people along the bottom right of that continuum. They have lots and lots of knowledge, perhaps lots of book knowledge, for example, but they lack empathy. And those people tend to operate from a space of shame and blame. They shame others for not knowing the correct PC term. They blame others for not reading the latest news article, right? They lack that empathy of understanding others' positions. You should know what I know. And if you don't, I will shame and blame you for not knowing. This is where I find most people tend to hang out. We mean well. We have lots of empathy and care and concern for other people's. We don't want to offend people, right? But perhaps we're lacking lived knowledge. Perhaps we're lacking learned knowledge. In my work with schools and leaders, I hear this a lot. Principals will say to me, our teachers mean well, but they say the wrong thing or respond in the wrong way because they are lacking the knowledge. And this is where I tend to hang out in a space of wisdom and patience. No matter how someone shows up, I try to lean on my deep empathy and love for others. I try to lean on my lived and learned knowledge to show up from a space of wisdom and patience. And so I want to invite us to practice applying this continuum to everyday situations. All right, so here's scenario number one. You are standing in line at the grocery store. In front of you, a woman of color is checking out at a cash register. She is in a foul mood and is rude to the cashier. When she leaves, the cashier mumbles, "They're all like that." Yikes. Where would you place the cashier along the love and knowledge continuum? If you felt compelled to respond, recognizing that she lacks both love and knowledge, how could you respond in a way that could grow her love or grow her knowledge? Encouraging her to take pause instead of immediately responding to the way the person is acting, to consider her words, to consider the experiences of others. Now, what about the woman of color? Where might we place her on the continuum? And I'm going to read into that question mark because I get this a lot. I have people respond to me and say, Dr. Howard, I don't know enough information. I don't have enough of the story to tell you where she is on the continuum. And to that, I say, beautifully articulated. Why? Because that is the reality of life. We never have the full story. And yet, we think things, we say things, we respond, right? And so, this continuum, this lens is an opportunity for us to sit back and reflect and observe our own judgment of others because we never know the full story. And so, my hope is that this tool can help you make a more informed decision if you feel compelled to respond, right? And to grow your radical compassion muscles. Scenario number 2. Your coworker Jess has worked for the company for 20 years. Jess is up for a promotion and feels confident she will get it. She's devoted a lot of time and care to the company. Later that week, you run into Jess and learn the promotion was given to a 25-year-old Indian woman. Jess tells you she feels derailed because of affirmative action. Indians have no right to take my job, she laments. Where might we place Jess, our coworker, on the continuum? Okay, this is beautiful, right? So we see that she is lacking love or lacking empathy. If we felt compelled to respond in this moment, how might we respond in a way that could grow her love? What might a radically compassionate response to her comment be? So I've had conversation with others around this example, and some of their responses include opening up the conversation about some of the assumptions that Jess is making, right? So first we have this idea of affirmative action. There's opportunity to open up conversation around that, right? The assumption is that the other woman was given the job because of affirmative action. Some assumptions happening there, right? There's also some assumptions around qualifications and ability, right? Jess believes that she is the right person for the job. Were it someone else who got the job, would her response be the same? And so encouraging Jess, once she's had a moment to emotionally regulate, to calm her stress response, I might open up conversation to invite her to explore some of the assumptions that she's making. And that could be an opportunity to grow her love and her empathy and her understanding of others. All right, now I want to invite you to think about your own moment. Maybe you've had a moment this week at work, maybe at home. Maybe there was a moment that happened and you responded in a way that you wish you had responded differently. Where would you place that person on the continuum? And how could you respond in a way that would grow their love or their knowledge, whatever you believe is lacking? Right? So take just 2 minutes to bring a moment to your mind, place that person, that group of people along the continuum, and think about how you might respond. When we are asked to intentionally observe the things that automatically happen, there can be some discomfort because there is bringing awareness and intentionality to those things. The reality is, we make assumptions, we think things in moments, right? Whether that be kind or unkind. And so, this is an invitation for you to sit in that discomfort of slowing down your thinking and considering and bringing awareness to the ways that you interpret and understand the reactions, thoughts, feelings, actions of others. So thank you for naming that. I invite you to extend grace to yourself as you continue to work to bring awareness to the judgment that happens so quickly in our minds and in our hearts. And I invite you to continue to slow down that judgment so that you can show up in moments that teach and inspire. The reality is, we all have bias. It is hanging around all the time, right? And so, the more that we can become aware of and use tools like this to think about the ways that our bias shapes and influences us, the more that we can practice radical compassion toward ourselves and toward others.